Well, the semi-finals of the FA Cup are looking pretty lit. Mark Ogden, Shaka Hislop joining me for this one as we look back at Chelsea up against Leicester. Chelsea going through with the lone goal coming from Ross Barkley, but that's all that Frank Lampard's men needed. Shaka, let's start off with you. We saw a first half again that probably was one to forget. Chelsea obviously not very good, which is what Ross Barkley said. In the end, that's what the manager told them, not good enough at halftime. Lampard made some changes at halftime, and that pretty much did the trick, right?
Yeah, it sure did. You summed up the game there perfectly, Alexis. In the first half, you saw what we've become used to from Leicester since we returned, and Chelsea, as good as they have been, in particular against Manchester City, were disappointing in the first half. And Frank Lampard showed that he's not afraid to make big calls when the time needs, and made 3 substitutions at half-time, which completely transformed their fortunes, brought them the goal and brought them the semi-final berth.
Augie, what did you think?
Yeah, I think the thing about the substitutions, I think we've seen it with all the big teams since the restart. They've just got much bigger squads and better players, and I think it's just such an unfair advantage to have such depth at their disposal, because the winning games by making substitutions are certainly saving games. We saw it with Man United at Tottenham recently. I just think that Chelsea got such a strong bench, and Lampard is a brave manager in that respect, and it's inevitable for me that the big teams will win, because they've just got the ability to make 5 changes in the FA Cup 6 if it goes to extra time. And I think that Chelsea, considering the way they've played and the way Leicester have played recently, Leicester for me it's not just the restart they've been struggling. Even before that, before we shut down, I thought that Leicester might struggle to hold on to a top 4 spot, and I do think that 7 games to go, I wouldn't be confident if I was a Leicester fan of finishing the Champions League spots.
All right, well, before we get to Leicester, let's talk about the Chelsea hero for today, Ross Barkley. Some of the other pundits were just talking here that he might have been playing for his future in the match today, given the names that we know that have been linked with Chelsea and that we know are definitely going to come next season. So what did you guys think? Do you think Ross Barkley did much to help his future with this one?
I'll go first here. Of course he did. I thought it was a very well taken goal. The timing of the run coming from deep is exactly what Frank Lampard made a career in doing. And Ross Barkley did so to very good effect here. When you play for clubs like Chelsea, as Mark alluded to, who have big squads and incredibly talented players coming in and leaving, you get used to that pressure, the pressure of speculation as to who's coming in and how do they fit and how does that affect my own position. So this is not uncommon ground for Ross Barkley, but I thought he responded exactly as he would have hoped. It was a good performance, a well-taken goal, and that's all you can ever offer as a player, that kind of return.
Augie, were you just as impressed?
Yeah, I think with Barkley, he's a player that is a real confidence player. And I think if a manager trusts in Ross Barkley, they'll get the best out of him. And I've seen it from both ends of the scale of Ross Barkley. He can be brilliant and a real match winner on his day. On other days, he can be a liability. He's a bit like Paul Pogba in a sense that at Man United, he has that ability to be outstanding. At other days, let his team down. But I think, under Maurizio Sarri, he wasn't particularly favoured by the manager. You could tell he didn't really fit into his plans. But under Lampard believes in him. He's prepared to let him make mistakes. He's prepared to let him take risks. And I think Ross Barkley's benefiting from that. And I do think in recent weeks he's shown that he's got a future at Chelsea, even with the players that are coming in.
Ross Barkley being compared to Paul Pogba. Oh, you get it all here at ESPN FC. And speaking of something you do get a lot of here at ESPN FC, Christian Pulisic. We have to talk to him, guys. And specifically a quote from Frank Lampard. We saw him today. He had a couple of chances. He was looking like his lively, usual self that we've seen since the restart. He did come off. I guess we saw a bit of a niggle. Chelsea definitely can't afford to lose him now, right?
No, they can't. The one thing that Pulisic brings and brings in abundance is pace running from deep in Chelsea's own midfield. You saw that to good effect against City. You saw that again today, bringing the best out of Kasper Schmeichel. And he's turned into a wonderful asset for Frank Lampard. Am I going to go overboard in the way that Frank certainly seemed to do in what he had to say? Not just yet, but he's proving that he's a valuable part of this squad, and probably more valuable than we thought some 6 or 7 weeks ago. And long may it continue for him as well.
Well, let's just get into exactly, let me read out for those that may not know exactly what Frank Lampard did have to say before we get Oggie's reaction. He said, I think Pulisic can be a really big player. He has the ability, like Raheem Sterling, to produce numbers from wide areas like Salah and Sadio Mane. Oggie, what do you think? Do you think he's going a little too overboard there, or do you actually see him becoming that big of a player?
I think right now, I think it probably is going a bit overboard, but I do think that, one player that's really benefited from having the 3-month shutdown is Christian Pulisic, because when he signed for Chelsea, he went there straight on the back of playing for the US. He had no break, and he looked, certainly for the first, 3 or 4 months of the season, he was struggling to adjust to the Premier League, but he kind of got under his belt. He's had time off now. I think he's been sensational since the restart, and I think I wouldn't put him in the same class as Salah and Mane and Sterling as yet, but Eden Hazard took a time at Chelsea to get his his feet going, to get himself settled in. And if Pulisic can be half the player that Eden Hazard was, then Chelsea have got a real buy. And he's a good player. He's got a lot of development to. But Lampard, again, he's doing it the right way. He's giving players confidence by talking them up. He's giving them a lot of praise and a lot of chances to impress him. And I think Pulisic, for me, having had that 3 months off and just had a bit of a breathe, I think we're seeing now why Chelsea were so keen to sign him in the first place.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.